Fair warning, if you install muOS, you're going to lose access to Bluetooth, and they have released updates to fix HDMI out to get it working, but some users are still reporting losing sound completely, so if that happens to you, you're going to have to reinstall everything again. So for now, I just recommend avoiding HDMI out. Also, there's no box art scraper for your games on this yet, so if you want to get artwork for your games, you're going to have to use a third-party software. But for now, I'm going to show you how to set everything up and give you tons of tips along the way. The first step you're going to want to do is back up your SD card that came with the SP. So remove that, and we're going to back up the files on your computer. In addition to this software card, if you ordered an expanded 128GB card, we're going to back that up on the computer as well. And just to clear something up for you guys, the 64GB card that comes with the SP is from Toshiba, so this card is actually reliable. So if you want 64 gigs, go ahead and use this one. But these black SD cards are still unreliable, so don't use this. And just to keep things simple, I'm going to install muOS on a brand new 128GB card. So go ahead and plug your 64GB card into your computer so we can back up the files. On the left, we have our SD card we're going to back up. So over on the right, I got this backup folder on my computer. Just make a new 64GB backup folder, and then copy all your files and paste it in the new folder to back it up on your computer. Now put in your expanded game storage card if you purchase one. If your SD card isn't recognized by your computer, open up Disk Management, and then down on the bottom here you can see I can just right click on my SD card and say change drive letter, and it's as simple as that. I'm just going to assign it letter D and say OK, and you can see my SD card just popped up. So do the same thing again, make a 128GB backup if you have one, and copy the files over to your computer. Remove the expanded game storage card. You should keep these cards stored away somewhere in a safe place in case you ever need files from them. Some of you might want to use your 64GB card to install muOS, and that's fine. It just depends on how much storage you want. This is the muOS website. On the left hand side you can see the RG35XX Plus and H. So go into there and you'll see the current release called Refried Beans. There's a download link for Refried Beans, but just below that there's a number that we're going to check when we download it to make sure that number matches. That means our download is good and not corrupt in any way. And over to the right you can see this is for the RG35XX series. The one above it is the 28XX, so you don't want that. So just click the download link and it'll bring you to some optional downloads. And we want to download the SP plus H24 version. So just download this zip file, which we're going to extract later. You're also going to need a software like Rufus, so we can install muOS on the SD card. So just scroll all the way down until you see the latest releases, and just download the standard exe file. But be careful, because when you click it, an ad will pop up. Just don't click the ad, exit it or click somewhere else. Then click the exe file again and it'll start downloading. You can also download 7-zip if you need something to unzip the files. So I just made an muOS folder here. I've already unzipped the file. Basically I just right clicked the zip file and said extract all, and it created a folder up above, and inside that is our refried beans image file that we're looking for. Next, open up Rufus so we can check that our download's not corrupted. You can see that my SD card's not connected yet. I just want to check the download. So hit select and we'll go into our folder and select our disk image file, and then just hit the green check mark. And you'll see that it's doing a status check, and the numbers here will pop up and we'll make sure that matches the website. And in this case it does, so our file's good to go. Now it's time to put the card in you want to install muOS on. Now that my SD card's connected, I'm going to choose the image file again, and it's ready to install on the card, so go down and hit start. It'll come up with a warning, that's fine, just say OK, and just let it do its thing. It might take a little bit. And when it's ready, just close. Now remove this card from your computer. We're just going to install the muOS software on the SP for now, but we'll put this card back in the computer later so we can add our games and BIOS files and stuff like that. Now that we have muOS installed on the SD card, let's just put it in the SP and power it on. You'll have a few options to choose from here, from the H plus, SP, and the updated 2024 version. So we're going to choose SP by hitting A. Then you'll be at a screen where you have to select your time zone. So for me, I'll choose Newfoundland because our island actually has its own time zone. But I'll have to manually choose everything here because that's not right. But something that's really important here is to save this, you have to hit B, which is the bottom button. You will hear sounds coming out of the speaker. That's just background noise that they got playing. It sounds like a bunch of technology running because it's installing the software. I'm not weird, I'm just a limited edition. Now the software is all set up, and if we go into Explore Content, there's nothing here. So let's take the SD card out and put it in our computer, and we'll add our games and stuff like that. So in order to shut this down, just hit B to go back to the main menu, and hit up to shut down, and then hit A to select shut down. So on the left is our SD card. You have your ROMs folder where we'll put our games. And under the muOS file, you'll have your BIOS file. We'll need our BIOS files too. So let's start with the ROMs. Just for demonstration purposes, I'll go into my 64GB backup and go down to ROMs and then select all and copy and paste it over to your ROMs folder on your SD card. When that's done, we're going to get our BIOS files for our games. This is where we're going to want to paste our BIOS files. So go over to your backup again and go into your BIOS folder. And again, select all and then paste it over to your SD card. Now that we've got our games and BIOS files added to the SD card, let's go through the menus and I'll show you how to set up everything properly and give you a ton of tips along the way. Also, if I do anything else in this video on the computer, that's going to be totally optional for you. On the main menu, you have Explore Content where your games and emulators are. If you go down, you'll have Favorites, History, Applications, Information, and Configuration. You can also reboot your system or shut it down. So let's start with Explore Content. I will show you a lot more with RetroArch later in this video, but for now, if I go in here, I can see all my game emulators like Atari, Commodore 64, Dreamcast. You can also use a shortcut to change your brightness, so if I hold the menu button and hit volume down and up, I can change my brightness. And I'll give you a bunch of shortcut tips later, as well as how to customize them. If you're on your games list, you can hit L1 or R1 to scroll through them very quickly. And if you're on a game, if you hit select, just go down and find whatever system you're playing. So for me, I'm playing Super Nintendo. And I can choose the different cores that will run the game. So on the stock OS, I was using SNES 9X. So let's just set it to that, and I'll show you how to transfer your save over. Now if I want Link to the Past to open using that core, all I have to do is save it to my favorites by hitting Y. Now Link to the Past will always open using that core I selected, and all these other games will use the same core as well, but they're not saved as favorites, so if you change another game to a different core, they'll all change again. So basically, if you want a game to open up using a specific core, just add it to your favorites after you've changed it. And because I opened this game up, it just created a save folder, which I can use to transfer my old saves from my stock SD card over to this SD card. So if you have any saves you want to transfer from any systems, just go in and open up a game and then quit, and a save folder will be created so you can transfer your old files. And if you want to quit the game, just hold the menu button and hit start. Now let's transfer my Link to the Past save file from my stock OS. In our backup folder, go down to Saves RetroArch, and then go into ROMs and Super Famicom, which is Super Nintendo. And I was using SNES 9X, and inside of there you can see my Link to the Past save file. So go into your muOS folder and then the save folder, and then click File. And find SNES 9X again, and it has to match. It can't be a different core. I'm going to delete this Link to the Past file because I don't want that one. So now that it's empty, just copy your old stock OS save file and paste it over to your SD card. And you can see that my old save exists here now, so that's pretty cool. Now let's say I change the core on this. Let's see if my save file will still work. And we're going to change it to Beetle Superfast now. And you can see that it still recognizes my save file. So as long as you initially move it from your old core folder to the matching new core folder, then you can change the core to whatever you want and it'll still recognize your save game. Now let's get some general settings set up. So if you go up to configuration, go into general settings. There are some very important things under general settings. So the first thing you're going to want to start with is sleep shutdown. Right now it's set to 5 minutes. If you close this up, it'll sleep and then shut down after 5 minutes. It doesn't use that much battery when it's in sleep mode, so you can choose something reasonable like 5 or 10 minutes. And right above that is HDMI output that's disabled. I'd recommend leaving that disabled just until they put out a solid update where there's no issues with HDMI out. And related to sleep shutdown mode is your device startup. So right now when we power up the system, it goes into the main menu, but you can change this to other things. One thing that you might want to use is the last game you played, but some people might want to actually start up the game right into the place they left off. So in that case, you can set it to resume game. So if you're in a game in RetroArch, you can shut this down and it'll sleep for like 5 or 10 minutes and then shut off. And when you power it back up, you'll power right back into where you left off. But keep in mind that only works for RetroArch. If you're using like a standalone emulator, make sure you save your game first. Now, if you want to take your SD card out and use it in a different RG35XX device, you can go down to device type. Right now it's set as the RG35XX SP, but before I put this SD card in a new device, I'll change it to something like the RG35XXH and hit A, and once that does its thing, I can now shut this system down and put this into this device and it'll work. But make sure if you want to put the card back in your SP, on the other device you change it back to SP first, and then you can put your SD card back in here and have all the features that you have on your SP. And what you might notice up here is that I can't see my Wi-Fi network, so down in interface options you can see that my network is hidden, so I'm going to make that visible. You can also select how your box art displays if you add any to your games. So for example, if I was in the games menu right now and I was hovering over a game, it says bottom front. So right here I'd see my box art for my game, but you can change this to whatever you want. Let me show you how to install themes. This is the Mustard OS GitHub. Just make sure you're on the theme page. And over on the right, you can see README. Just click on that and it'll bring you down to where the themes are. So it says here, you just got to download a zip file and then place it within your archive folder. And we'll install it using the archive manager. So just scroll down and I'm going to use the Super Nintendo theme. So you can see I downloaded some themes here. I'm just going to go to my SD card and make sure I'm in the archive folder. And then I'm just going to copy my Super Nintendo theme and paste it into there. Now that we got the Super Nintendo theme added to this, just go up to your applications and then go into your archive manager. And we can see the theme we added up here, so hit A to install. Now let's go back to our configuration menu, and then there's a theme picker. And in here you'll see all the themes that are installed on your device. So let me show you what a properly installed theme looks like. So if I go down to the one we installed, we'll see a preview of it. And if I hit A to confirm, now I have the Super Nintendo theme, and it matches the whole aesthetic I got going with this color. But if you never installed this properly and you just drag the theme into the themes folder on your SD card, then it'll look like this. It's not installed, it's just in the themes folder, and if I hit A on it, it just doesn't work at all and you'll mess everything up. So let's just go down to Beans and change it back to what it used to be. It actually has a lot that comes with the software itself, like this is a Virtual Boy theme, for example. So make sure to go on to GitHub, and you can also choose to support them from this website. And they have a Discord with a whole community that you should definitely check out as well. And they're making some really awesome themes for this. So right now my Wi-Fi network's not enabled, so if I hit A, what you want to do is hit X to scan. Just make sure to select your network and enter your password, and then click Connect. You'll notice you're connected to Wi-Fi when the Wi-Fi icon is lit up. So under web services, you have some more options like a file browser using your computer, so you can add files that way. I'm also going to show you how to use Syncthing, so all your saves will be backed up in case anything ever goes wrong with this device. You can see that I enabled those here. You can find your SP's IP address in your Wi-Fi network. And to connect remotely through a web browser, just enter in your IP address from your SP, followed by :9090. And the username and password is muOS. And you can see that I'm connected to my SP now. So go into SD1 or MMC. And here we have all of our folders. So we could add ROMs through our network here. If you go into muOS and then go down to Save, and then click File, you can see where we put our link to the past save file. So if you wanted to back that up to your computer from here, you could. So let's talk about Syncthing, where you can automatically back up your RetroArch saves. So this is the first web page, which is your computer's folder. And you're going to make a second web page, which is your SP's folder, and you'll connect them to each other. It's actually pretty easy, and I'll take you through step by step. So first go to Syncthing and download it. It'll take you to a GitHub page again. Just scroll down and you'll find a download link, and just download the latest exe file. And your PC might warn you about it. Just click more info and then run anyway. In your web browser, it might say your connection isn't private. That's fine. And that's it. You got your first web page set up. So that's your computer's folder. And I changed the name of mine to RetroArch Saves. And there's a default folder here, but you can delete that and make your own. But for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to use the default one. And you can change the name of the folder here, it doesn't matter, but the two most important things is your folder ID. You need your folder ID to connect to your SP. And the second thing is your folder path. So this is where your saves are going to back up on your computer. So I just renamed my folder RetroArch Saves. Under the File Versioning tab, just change it to Simple File Versioning. And under Advanced, change your folder type to receive only. That's because your computer receives your save files from your SP. So let's set up your SP to send your save files, and we'll connect it to your computer's folder. Basically, you just need your SP's IP address again, but this time it's followed by :7070. And once you're in, you'll see that it's actually picking up your computer's folder, so definitely add that device. So once you're in, this is basically your SP's web page, and you're ready to connect it to your computer. But you have to create a folder. So just click Add Folder. And this is where you have to put in the folder ID. Mine was named Default, so that'll match it to your computer's folder. And you can name the top whatever you want. I named mine muOS RetroArch Saves. And the folder path is where your saves are on your SP, so use the same path that I did. And under the Sharing tab, make sure you check off your computer's folder so you can share with your computer. And then under File Versioning, change it to Simple File Versioning again. And under Advanced, change this folder type to Send Only, because you want your SP to send your save files to your computer for backup. So yeah, your second web page is completed. So back on the first web page, all you gotta do is just share that folder with your SP's folder now. And that's it. So it'll start syncing. If you're stuck, just restart Syncthing, but it should work fine automatically when you're connected to your Wi-Fi. And you can see that it's syncing to my computer now, which is awesome. If I go into File and go down to SNES 9X, there's my link to the past save file that's on my SP. Let me go into RetroArch and show you a ton of tips on how to set it up. If you go into Applications, you can find RetroArch down here. I'll show you some general settings, but I'll get into game-specific settings later. So if I want to connect this to Retro Achievements, just go down to Settings, and then you'll see Achievements down towards the bottom. Turn that on, and all you have to do is enter your username and password. I'd also recommend leaving Hardcore Mode off. If you want to learn about Hardcore Mode, just check the Retro Achievements website. So now it's all ready to connect to the website, and when you play a game, you'll unlock achievements. The next thing you want to set up are your hotkey shortcuts, like hitting the menu button and start to exit the game, for example. So go up to Input and then Hotkeys. And the menu button's set up here, so we don't want to change that. Another really important thing that's worth noting, if you're in a game and you want to access the RetroArch menu, you have to hold down the menu button and hit X. And that's what that's set to right here. And to quit the game, it's set up here. Start is recognized as button 10. You don't have to know what the numbers are here, but I'll show you how to set up your buttons to customize whatever shortcut you want. So for example, if I want fast forward to be R2, all I do is tap A, and when a countdown starts, just hold on R2 and that just changed to that button that I wanted to use. So now if I want to fast forward a game, I'll just hold on the menu button and R2 to turn fast forward on. Slow motion is usually set up as L2 on these devices, so if I want to set that up, I'll just tap A and hold on L2. So usually for my load states, I want that to be L1, and then when I want to save a state, I'll use R1. Just tap A and hold L1. And then for save state, tap A, hold R1. Besides saving and loading my game, I also like to make multiple saves. So you can choose different save slots. And I like to set these up with left and right on the D-pad. So if I tap on A for next save slot, I'll just hold right on the D-pad. And if I want to select my previous save slot, I'll just set that up as left on the D-pad. If you want to show your frames per second, that's set up as the Y button. I think that's everything we should set up for now. There's more options down below if you want to check them out. If you go back to the main menu, go down to saving. Down below, you'll see you can turn on auto save state and auto load state. That's going to help you automatically save your games when you exit a game or you close your system and it shuts off and you reboot into it. So I'd recommend turning these on so you don't lose your progress. So let's back out to the main menu and save everything we just did. Just go down to configuration file and save current configuration. After our settings are saved, just go back and quit, and I'll show you some in-game specifics for RetroArch. But if you want to make sure that your RetroArch is connected to your network, just go to General Settings and then go down to Advanced, and on the bottom you can see RetroArch Network Wait. So I'm going to enable that right now. That basically means when RetroArch boots up, it'll wait for your network to connect so that you won't miss out on anything such as retro achievements. As long as you're connected to your network and you have RetroArch set up to connect to the Retro Achievements website, if I go into Tiny Toon Adventures on the original Nintendo, for example, you can see down here that I'm logged in as Batpixel. Now let's talk about on-screen overlays and shaders. If you want to turn them off, all you have to do is hold the menu button and hit X to access the RetroArch quick menu, and then go down to on-screen overlay. And you can turn this off, and you can see it's gone now. So if you go back, just go into overrides and then save content directory overrides. One thing you'll notice about shaders, there's like a small little grid system on here. If you want to turn the shader off and just have like a HD game, go back into the RetroArch quick menu and then go down to shaders. And you can see that there is a shader that's turned on. So if I turn that off, just go back and then overrides and save content directory overrides. But the thing about video shaders is that if you turn them off, you might have frame issues. So I just leave them on. So again, go back and hit save content directory overrides and everything's back the way it was. Another tip about Game Boy Advance is that if you're in the games menu, just hit select and then go down and find Game Boy Advance. You'll find some cores that are included for Game Boy Advance. So GPSP allows you to fast forward through your games quicker, whereas MGBA Rumble has better color in your games. And there's some other cores included down here as well. And something else that you can do to fix your color is to go down to core options and then find your color correction and change that to auto. And again, save your core overrides. If you want to fix up the color for Game Boy or Game Boy Color, it's similar to Game Boy Advance, but I'll show you where it is. So let's just go into Game Boy. You'll see that the game opens up in black and white. If you want to change this gray color, just go into the RetroArch quick menu and then go down to core options again. And at the top, you'll see Game Boy colorization. So right now this is off and you have some options. So for the original Game Boy, if you want it to go green, just select custom. And when you go back, just make sure to save it in your overrides again. And now it has that green color to it. But when I change this to auto and I go back into Kirby, so now it actually has color in the game, which is awesome. And just as an FYI, Game Boy Color is set up as custom, which actually looks really good. I've been getting comments about Pokemon game saves not working. That's because the ROM files here are probably just bad ones. So if you're experiencing that, just replace the Pokemon game that you're playing with a new ROM that works better. I've been getting some comments about setting up the C buttons for N64, and I'll show you a very easy way to set up your N64 controls through connecting to your SP through your Wi-Fi on your computer. So basically how I have this set up is L1 is Z, R1 is R, L2 is C left, R2 is C right, X is C up, A is C down, and B and Y act as your A and B. So for example, it's telling me that I have to hit C down to open up this door. So I'll say OK, and when I go up to the door and hit C down, it opens. So now I'll show you how to set these controls up over Wi-Fi. So connect remotely to your SP again, and go into SD1 or MMC, and then go to your muOS folder. And then click Emulator, and go down and find the 64 Plus emulator. You might have to go to the second page to find the Rice core. That's the one we want. So over on the right, just click the icon to edit it, and it's just a text file. So if you scroll down, you'll find Input Control 1. And just beneath that, you can see all the things I typed in here and changed. So just copy all this and type them in, and then over on the right, click Save, and you're done. Some systems don't use RetroArch like DS, so for example, if I hold the menu button and hit X, nothing happens. But if I hit R2, I can switch the screens, and if I want the stylus to come up, I can hit L2. So there are different button layouts in some systems, and I'll put the DS shortcuts on the screen right now. And just in case you're stuck, hold the menu button and hit L1 to exit. So one thing that bothers me with the original Nintendo, A is set up to jump. I'd rather jump using B. B makes me run faster, but I'd rather Y make me run faster. But now it's set up as like a turbo jump. So let's change the controls. First, let's hold the menu button and hit X to get into the RetroArch quick menu, and then go down to controls. Our device is set up as port 1, so go in here. So basically what's happening here, my A button is set up as jump, but I want my B button to do that. So let's change my B button to do what A was doing. So I'll set that as A. So now you can see my B button set up as jump. And I want my Y button to make me run faster. Right now that's set up as B. So let's go down to my Y button that I want to change. And I'll set my Y button up to do what B was doing. And then we'll just change the A button to something else like Turbo A. So now this is exactly how I want it. Whenever you change the controls, you want to save them. So go back and go to Manage Remap Files, and then Save Content Directory Remap File. That'll save my original Nintendo controls across all games. Or you can just save the games remap file, but I want to do them all, so I'll just save it here. And you can see now that B is set up to jump just like I wanted it. And if I want to run faster, just hold Y. That's what I'd like to use for games like this and Mario. And we're going to test out the video player. I used to use a program called Handbrake to shrink down videos to put them on my PSP. So we're going to do the same thing here with my SP review video. And it might ask you to install this software from Microsoft, so just go ahead and do that if you need it. Just open up whatever video in Handbrake, and you can see that the preset is 1080p, but I want to shrink it down smaller. So let's make it 480p. And just make sure your format is MP4, and on the bottom you can choose where you want to save the file, and then go up to the top and start. And you can see I just created a smaller version of the video to fit on my SP. I also downloaded a song from YouTube's music library, so I'm also going to test the music player. So on your SD card, just go into ROMs and create a folder, and I'm just going to call this Movies. And then just copy your small video and paste it over onto your SD card. And make another folder called Music, and just copy your music and paste it onto your SD card. So go into Explore Content and find the Movies folder that we created, and here it is. So basically I have to assign it to a video player because it's not assigned to anything yet. So if I hit Select, at the very bottom of the list I can find the video player. So just hit A to confirm and select this player, and now I can open it. The company Miu was going to expand their Miu Mini Plus line to be a Miu Mini that flips, right? But nothing happened. So that works awesome, and you can skip through a video by hitting right on the D-pad. L and R kind of skips to the middle and the ending. Start pauses the video, and if you want to exit, just hit select. I also promised you that I'd test out the music player, so let's go into applications and then select music player. It kind of brings you to this like weird menu. If you go down to MMC, hit A, and then you can go and find your ROMs folder and scroll down until you find music, and you can see in our music folder the song is here. So let's just hit B to play it. So even though getting to your music is a little wonky, it does work. And if I hit start, I can make playlists, and you can even see the song play and see the information about it. And if you need help at any time on how to use this, just hold L2. And down here, you can see if you're holding L2, just hit up on the D-pad. And there's a full menu here that shows you all kinds of information and what the controls are. And just hold L2 and start to exit. I got this to work somewhere else as well. If I go into music and hit select on this song, I can assign it to something. So if I assign it to that video player again, it will play in a video player, but it kind of gives you this sketchy screen. So hit Y and you can bring up this cool looking audio track. So this is probably a better way to access your music. If you found this helpful, let me know down in the comments, and I have a ton of gaming product reviews and guides, so check those out as well.